With this uptick in concern about the virus, and of course, we're seeing more and more lockdowns, shutdowns, stay at home, whatever you want to call it, across the country, I'm wondering if it's starting to have political consequences on the governments leading the charge. They've said they've learned the lessons from the first wave and the second wave, but here we are. And are Canadians recognizing that as well? Are they starting to be a bit frustrated with the way premiers, I guess specifically, are handling this third wave?
Yeah, it's been, well, we saw in the monthly tracking on what I'll say the report card related to the vaccinations. January was a pretty dour month. February things got a little better, and now we're back. It's kind of like I said, 2 steps forward, 2 steps back. And but some of the provinces are doing get scored a little better by their residents. At the top of the list of Quebec, Quebecers score their province, I think, about a 7.2 out of 10. This is compared to the provincial average of about 5.7. Atlantic Canadians are also likely to score above average, but and British Columbians. But below average would be the prairies, and at the very bottom of the list, at least right now, would be Ontario. You only give the government of Ontario, the provincial government, a 4.9 out of 10, which is not very good by any measure.
And what about Alberta, Nick? I'm wondering, we've seen a few provincial pandemic elections. Are voters shaping up to have another one in that province or elsewhere? Or is it still the situation where, incumbent governments are going to largely be protected at the polls?
Well, incumbent governments have done really well, right? For incumbent governments, BC, New Brunswick, Newfoundland, who started off with a minority, managed to snatch a majority. In Saskatchewan, I believe they not only they held on to government, but picked up a seat or two. But that doesn't mean that's going to happen in the future. It just means that in the past, incumbent governments have been rewarded. Right now, when we look at some of the numbers, the provincial numbers in Alberta and Ontario, both of those premiers are not doing as well as they were a year ago or when they got elected. And that there's been a bit of a souring on that front because people are just getting into a bit of an uglier mood. And as a result, what I'll say, it's a little more up in the air when it comes to those particular provincial governments. But, Legault's numbers are still good in Quebec, and his province scores well, and their numbers are still pretty good. So maybe he's the little outlier and the incumbents that are left.
Fair enough. So with this level of fatigue, everyone, of course, is focused on the pandemic, but I'm wondering if it is time for premiers to take another approach and start focusing on the post-pandemic conversation. Obviously, we still got to get through the next few months and get everyone vaccinated, but is there an appetite for that forward-looking conversation to start happening so people can plan their lives and have some hope? Is it, vaccination passports, or once the spread comes down, if that's an incentive for people to stay home now, it means you can see 10 people inside at this point. Is it an opportune time for them to start having those kind of, this is what our future is going to look like, we just got to hold on for the next few months?
Absolutely. This speaks to what we talked about earlier, Rachel, and the messaging. The messaging should be, unless we get vaccinated and unless we beat this, you won't be going back to the way it was. And here's what life can look like if a majority of Canadians get vaccinated, if we continue to respect social distancing rules and wearing masks, then for next Thanksgiving, hopefully you'll be able to spend it with your family. That next fall, your kids will be able to go to school, and schools can be a safe place, what I'll say, a consistently safe place where they're not at risk. And I think that's where the messaging not only needs to change, but it needs to kind of tell people why we need this particular lockdown and why we need to do these measures, and what the benefit will be, not just for them personally, but for the economy too.